You see me?
No.
Okay, here's the deal. There I
There
am.
we go. Yeah, he's back.
Boom. Dun, 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 dun. All right, guys, gals. As people chime in, we want to be mindful of your time. So as people chime in, we'll get them acquainted. For those that are here and with us, we want to make optimal use of this time. This is really about, we've got an hour allotted, but we want to keep it to about 30 or so minutes. I'll say somewhat fast and furious. And then, 15 or so minutes for questions and dialogue. It's going to be a little bit free flow. As always, I have a plan, but we don't want to be so lockstep that we can't deviate from that plan. So with that, let me pull up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a screen. You're going to be able to see my screen. And then I'll do that briefing from there. But first, let me orient you to our handouts. So you'll see at the bottom of the screen, right, you should have the dashboard to the left or to the right or whatever it may be. But, on your dashboard, we've got 5 sets of handouts. It's, can we say what diet is best for health? The exercise effect, W3 Eat, Move, and Sleep PDF. That is the briefing that I'm going to be using. So that's just the slideshow format to tee things up. We have a JPEG that really takes, I'll say, the high points of the multiple diets that are out there, the Mediterranean diet, paleo, and does, I'll say, a cursory analysis of, hey, what are the common threads that they think everyone can adopt? And then lastly, an Eat, Move, Sleep 30-day challenge. So what that is based on Tom Rath's book, Eat, Move, and Sleep. So the title of this webinar, I'll say, is based on that book by a guy named Tom Rath. I recommend it to you. So I've also included his check sheet as it shows. And for 30 days, he gives you a series of questions to be looking at, your diet, your, dare I say, your sleep rituals, exercise, and all that stuff. So it keeps you somewhat honest. So that might be a useful resource for you. So can everybody chime in? Who do we have?
Hey, Mike, Gary, it's Tim.
Hey, Tim.
All right, good. Looks like we've got Will. Will, we have you now? I've unmuted you.
I'm here. I just got here, man. I'm multitasking. Freaking.
I hear you, man.
Yeah, I'm working and listening to this, so I'll do both.
Okay, good.
I can hang.
Like I said, well, you missed it, I think, but I'll try to be mindful of everyone's time. And as people come in, we'll integrate them. But right now, what I'm going to do is a screen share. I'm just going to orient people. You've got your handouts at the bottom, but I've got a quick poll that I want to share with everybody. 2 polls, ready? So I'm going to send this. Boom. What do you guys see?
Just you guys.
Launch poll. Boom.
There you
All
go.
right. So I just launched a poll.
Right, there it is.
There you go. So answer that question for me. This will be a little bit fun.
Oh, look. Okay. Yeah.
And believe me, nobody's going to hit you up for money. This is a hypothetical. I'm not trying to sell it.
Wait till the end.
Yeah.
All right. Good. So I'm going to close that poll. So just to share it with you, we had 29% say, hey, $50 a month, they'd pay that. 14% said $75 a month. And we had 57%, well over the majority, say $100 or more, I'd pay for a pill that does that.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So here's the next poll.
Of course.
I would hope, yes, 100%. All right. So not to belabor this, the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, guys and gals, it's 8 hours of sleep a night. I'm sure you've seen that, heard that. Maybe you haven't, but the people in this era that we live nowadays would be like, oh, give me the body in a bottle, the magic potion, give me the pill, this and that. But 8 hours of quality sleep a night has all of those effects. So in the read ahead stuff that I sent you, and I apologize for it being the night before, maybe what I'll try to do for future webinars is give it a good week before. But I sent you a number of things, the same articles that you posted below, but then also a few TED Talks, both on sleep. And they talk about everything from staving off Alzheimer's to dementia to this and that, to sleep being the time that you solidify memories for learning, and the list of merits for a good night's sleep are, they abound. They're endless. But bottom line, I mean, I kind of wanted to make that point right up front that a good night's sleep has all those effects. People would pay big money for a supplement that did that, and it's for free with no side effects. If you really prioritize your sleep and really make it a focus, and it's going to have profound effects. So let me share my screen with you. All right. So everyone sees the W3 page?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes.
Well, all right. All right. So the next page you see Eat, Move, Sleep. That's the book from by Tom Rath. And I'm not trying to sell that. I'm not trying to say, oh, guys, hey, you need to be reading that book. However, it is, a pretty interesting read. This guy, Tom Rath, by the way, was a very sickly dude, tumors all over his body. I mean, they were like, hey, you're not long for this world, man. So then he took it upon himself to say, I'm gonna make these changes. I'm gonna get good sleep. I'm gonna eat right, and I'm gonna exercise. And all of that went into remission to the point where his docs were amazed and said, how is it, what is it that you're doing? And he was like, I'm just doing these basic things. So that's where that comes from. So sleep. Why sleep, right? I'm going to start. It says eat, move, sleep, but Carrie and I, we've talked about this. And Carrie, you chime in whenever you feel. But to me, I'll tell you, I prioritize sleep piece. For me, if I get a good night's sleep, that sets the stage for everything. Whereas to the converse, if I get a poor night's sleep, I don't feel like exercising. I usually eat, and snack sugary things because you're really feeling this energy trough. I'm not in a good mood. I'm not very mentally focused. So for me, sleep is such a stage setter, which is why I'm emphasizing it so much. So again, people much, much smarter and more educated than I am have done multiple studies that show sleep impacts your immune health, mental acuity and memory, energy and recovery. So if you are working out, you get a good night's sleep, you come back stronger. Because as we all know, exercise, it's not the exercise itself that makes you stronger, it's the recovery afterwards. So yes, you need to exercise, but it's that recovery is really where you're making it. So we've said this at the Academy of Healing during the Warriors Ascent program, the sleep ritual and hygiene. So a sleep schedule, scheduling it at the same time, right? Going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, as best you can. Shift work, they've shown, takes, has a significant impact on well-being. If you're working shift work and you can't help that, man, I got it. But to the best of your ability, try to maintain consistency. I say shut down complete next, meaning, hey, there's a point at which when you're getting ready for your sleep ritual, whether that's going to bed at 8, 9, 10, whatever, you should at some point say, all right, no more inputs. I'm not watching the news. I'm not getting on Facebook. I'm not doing any of that crazy stuff. I'm now going to begin my shutdown, my mental and physical shutdown in the ramp up to sleep. Because you can't be taking in all of that stuff, especially with blue light, right? And studies similarly have shown blue light from your electronic devices is much like the sun. It affects your your melatonin levels. Melatonin is the sleep hormone that makes you kind of feel sleepy, puts you to sleep. Well, blue screens affect the secretion of melatonin, which is why if you're on your computer late or on your iPad or your iPhone, you're staring at the ceiling, looking at the ceiling, going, why can't I fall asleep? That's one of the major reasons. So obviously device screens. Lastly, I'll say setting condition, right? Temperature. Studies have shown 60 degrees. You want it colder. If it's too hot, you don't sleep well. So turn down the temperature. Light, like no light whatsoever. So they say if you can, obviously limit that with some dark shades. Blankets. Some people like the security of a weighted blanket. So, not everybody, but, again, studies have shown, anecdotal evidence has shown, 5-pound weighted blanket, which you can get, helps some people. Aromatherapy is another. Now, I've got a survey at the end of this. You will get this post webinar. I've got a friend of mine who he and his sister both are like doTERRA reps. And for those that are interested, I can hook you up with him for a study, right? It's a doTERRA study. And in that, it's like a series of webinars. It's a kind of more information than anything else. You can get free product and all of that stuff. So for those that are interested, if in that survey, in the post survey, if you're interested, just let me know with a yes or a no. And if you're interested, just provide your point of contact information, obviously name and email. I'll forward that to my buddy, and they can hook you up. So with that, some of the doTERRA essential oils help with sleep, digestive health, I think stress and anxiety, a variety of things. But for those that want to avail themselves of that, there's no cost, no obligation, where they'll give you some free supplement, free oils. And then I think the most that they ask is that you kind of log and provide feedback in terms of how that's helping you with, again, sleep or whatever else. I'll throw that out to everybody.
All right.
So that's sleep. Yeah.
Can I talk about sleep a little bit? All right.
Yes.
So I completely agree. I think everybody's sleep is a little bit different, but I think you need at least 7-8 hours of sleep a night for the body to recover. And so, I am going to encourage you to start thinking about 2 hours before you go to bed to wind down. So definitely just kind of reiterate what Mike said, no blue light. If you're going to watch TV or anything like that, just try to turn that off 2 hours before you go to bed, and don't eat anything at least 2 hours before you go to bed. And the reason why that affects your glucose levels and that affects your ability for your melatonin. Your melatonin naturally wants to release 2 hours before you go to bed. And so if you're having problems sleeping, or you're sleeping for 2 or 4 hours and you're getting up for a little bit and then sleeping for 2 or 4, how Mike said is you want to get to the point where you're sleeping as long as possible. So for example, if you're only sleeping 4 hours a night and you want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you want to go to bed at as late as you can, stay up until 2 in the morning, get up at 6. And then once you're sleeping that 4 hours solid, then go to bed at 1 in the morning, and then back it until you go to bed at midnight. And then from midnight to 6, you're sleeping those really solid hours, and then you can stair step it back and go to bed at 11. And now you're going to bed at 11 and getting up at 6, and maybe you feel really rested, or maybe you need to start going to bed at 10, which means if you're going to bed at 11 or 10, that you need to start that process 2 hours before. So no consumption of food, journaling, and if you're a type A personality and you have a lot of energy and your mind is just racing and racing, I'm going to encourage you to find some type of physical activity to engage in to help your mind reset and relax. And he's going to talk about move and exercise later, but it's really important that you have all of that stimuli out of you so you can really relax and sleep. So there's some things that will help you. One of them is journaling. So if you just take the time to write down the thoughts, feelings, emotions, everything that's going on in your life, then that gives your brain the ability to release that so it doesn't have to focus on that anymore. Even a to-do list, I'll say that over and over, but if you have things that you need to get done tomorrow, a laundry list, a grocery list, go get medicine, whatever it is, if you write that down, even though you tell yourself, I'm not going to forget it, there's no reason to write it down, I'll remember it. it still frees up that space in the brain, and it gives that brain that opportunity to really relax and reset. So journaling is important. And then after you do whatever type of exercise or whatever it is you need to do, your time for self-care. So maybe it's some meditation, some mindfulness, maybe it's a hot bath, maybe whatever it is for you that's going to allow you to relax completely, totally. So think about 2 hours before you go to bed, what can you do to let go of the day completely? Just let it all go. So then when you're ready to go to sleep, then you're able to truly, truly relax. One thing I would suggest is maybe setting a timer. I talk about, time-based activities. So maybe you go for a run or you exercise for 15 to 20 minutes, and then you take a bath for a certain amount of time. You meditate for 5 to 20 minutes, whatever it is. Go ahead and feel free to set yourself a timer between all these activities that you're going to do, which I call is self-care. And I guess my question is, does anybody have any questions regarding any of these concepts we've discussed before we kind of go on?
Terry, this is Will. How do you feel about reading? Say you read a book.
Yeah,
It gets
so
me
reading is
drowsy.
very
Is that cool?
Yeah, and so I've gone through the studies from like Yale and Harvard and all that, and they were going to tell you, they suggest paper. If you can read a paper book,
Correct.
read a paper book. Otherwise, like the Kindle and iPad and all those have that reading mode on there. And so if you flip it to that mode, it's more soothing, but you really need to stay away from blue light 2 hours, because what happens is you're still stimulating your brain and your body, right? Usually we're watching Netflix or Hulu or whatever it is, and then we turn around and we try to go to bed and we can't go to sleep because we haven't done our self-care routine. We haven't shut down. Reading, and I'm going to tell you, it's the type of material too, though. You want to make sure that you're reading something that's calming and relaxing, or maybe even something that's humorous, not something that's really intense, something that's really going to serve you and calm you before you go to bed. But reading is definitely one of those self-care concepts that's very helpful before you go to bed.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions?
No, that's a great point, man. And I've heard some people say, or at least some studies have shown, or recommendations, some advice, is if you've got insomnia in the middle of the night, and I know that happens to me. I wake up almost on the dot at like 1:30 or 2. Some will go so far as to say, hey, if you can't get to sleep within about 15 or 20 minutes, you should pick up a book. And as you said, not a Kindle, not an iPad, but an honest to goodness book, and read. And
Yeah.
that way that will help put you to sleep. So some people still go so far as to say that if you have middle of the night insomnia, reading would be beneficial, because that'll help maybe wind you down.
That's it. Thanks. I think there was was there another question? But because there's a couple other things I want to cover too before we move on. Tim, did you have a question? No. Okay. I thought somebody had a question.
No.
One thing you want to do is you want to do what's called, like, I call it a safety or security check to make sure you sleep well, right? You want to go around your home, and if you need to turn on lights or turn off lights, you need to make sure windows or doors are locked. Whatever it is for you that's going to give you make you feel safe and secure, before you go to bed, make sure you go do a security check around your environment. That's going to help you out. And whatever that means to you. Everybody's a little different. I love sleeping with the window open. I sleep with the window open like year round. So that's one of my things. I just like having that fresh air, but I also see that as like an escape route, right? In the back of my mind, it's like, okay, if I need a way out, I can get out that window really quick. So whatever works for you. So make sure that you have that that routine as part of your self-care, and that's the last thing you want to do before you go to bed. And now I forgot the other thing I was going to discuss. It may come up to me later. All right. No more.
All right.
Is there any questions? I thought somebody had a question. They were starting to ask. You can also type it out down here on your little panel. If there's something that comes to mind during this and you want to ask the question but you don't want to interrupt, you can type a little message in there. All right.
In the chat. Yep. All right, so next is eat. And, you know, for those that have been through the program, you know, especially recently, I think I've shared this, can't outrun a bad diet. And there's a lot of truth in that. You know, so you can do all the right things, but if you're eating poorly, that's going to be rate limiting. You know, so eating right is much like sleep, foundational. So benefits of a good diet, energy, right? First and foremost, you eat right, you've got more energy. Sense of well-being, I'd say lesser known is the fact that you've gotten more neurotransmitters in your gut than you do in your head. You know,
Yeah.
so when people are wondering, God, you know, I've got, you know, GI distress, I've got whatever, why aren't I feeling well, or why am I feeling depressed? Well, there's a reason for that, is because people have associated, you know, a good diet with an overall sense of well-being. You eat cleanly, you've got energy, all of that. Mental acuity is the last one. And I shouldn't say the last, is another one. So mental acuity, you eat right, you think better, you're more engaged. I'll speak for myself anecdotally. If I have like a sugary meal or even a snack or something like that, you feel a spike, you're like, oh, I feel good, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, now I just want to go to sleep. And, you know, there are all reasons for that. You know, spike in insulin level. You don't want spikes in your insulin level. You want it to be somewhat stable, you know, by eating the right things. So that brings us to what is a good diet, and then what to stay away from. So, of course, let me see. So you should now see a screen where it shows health benefits related to the low carbohydrate diet, low fat vegetarian vegan, low glycemic Mediterranean, mixed balance, Paleolithic, right? So some of these are the more popular, I'll say mainstream diets per se. Does everybody see that, Carrie? You see that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So it talks about health benefits for each one underneath. And what I like, because, you know, tomato, everyone has their preferences. What I like are, all right, man, hey, I'm so inundated with all the latest fads and, you know, intermittent fasting. It's, you know, you almost don't know where to begin. You're like, just give me some good basic guidelines. Here they are. So you look at the compatible elements right in the middle. It says limited refined starches, added sugars, or processed foods. So what that means is grains, you know, white flour, things like that. Added sugars, you know, so obviously table sugar or corn syrup is the other, you know, insidious one. And then processed foods. If it's not on the outer aisle of your supermarket, you know, if it's in a box, 9 out of 10 times it's not the greatest. Limited intake of certain fats, but certain fats are good. So omega-3s and omega-6s. Omega-3s reduce inflammation. Omega-6 increase inflammation. So it goes. But what it is you need a blend. You need some inflammation, and then you need, you know, reduction in inflammation. So omega-3s are fish, things like that. Omega-6s, nuts, things of that nature. So the what is it? I'm trying to remember the bad fats, monounsaturated. Bottom line is not all fats are bad. Some fats are good. You just need to eat the right ones. Emphasis on whole plant foods. So, hey, vegetables, mostly vegetables, right? One of the other things they talk about is with or without lean meats, fish, poultry, seafood. So some people are vegan, vegetarian. You know I like my meat, I like my protein. But if you're going to eat protein, don't eat as much as is in the standard American diet. And if you choose to eat lean meats, particularly fish, poultry, and seafood. So all of this is consistent with food, not too much, mostly plants. So if you follow those guidelines, I mean, if you're completely, I won't say confused, but like, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin. If you follow those basic guidelines, you are in the ballpark. So Carrie, what?
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about go into more serotonin because we talked about that a little bit with the melatonin, but
Okay.
the positive aspects, the 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. So what you're eating really does affect your mood, right? So I'll just read these off real quick so I don't forget. I guess obviously I forgot last time half of what I'm talking about. But the higher the serotonin, depression's gonna be a lot lower. Anxiety is gonna be a lot lower. It's gonna help heal a lot of wounds. Overall, it's just better mental health for you. So the lower serotonin is gonna be the opposite, right? So if you have lower serotonin, you're gonna be more anxious. You're gonna have a higher rate of depression, higher rate of anxiety. All these different things are the reverse effect. So I'm not a dietitian, so I can't tell you exactly what you should and shouldn't. But what I want you to do is be aware of those foods really do affect your mood, and they do affect how you're going to behave and how you respond. And one thing I want to kind of put in point is, and it's going to go with all three of these, is once you begin to find balance, you tend to gravitate towards those things that keep you in balance. Once you fall out of balance, you tend to gravitate towards those things that keep you out of balance. So like when you start eating a lot of sugar, right? You just crave it, and you're falling more and more away out of that balance. But once you stop it and you find those foods that really nurture you and those foods that really serve you, then you tend to be more in balance and you tend to gravitate towards those things. So it's kind of like really truly the foundation is sleep. I had struggled for years, and it's taken me probably the last year of all this research and study and workshops and everything to finally get to the point where I am sleeping really, really well. And I'll tell you the things that really helped me was backdating and getting to that point where I was sleeping a good solid 4 hours and 5 and then 6 and then 7 hours a night. The other thing that's really, really helped me is my routine before I go to bed. The biggest thing that's really helped me is not eating 2 to 3 hours before I go to sleep. That has been one of the biggest factors that has really helped me get a really good night's sleep, and the simplest thing. So I was doing a lot of things right, but there's a few little aspects that I needed to fine tune that I finally enabled to sleep. And I remember now what I was going to say about the bed. You know, it's supposed to be for sex and sleep, and that's it. So if you lay in bed and you can't sleep within 15 minutes, you want to get out of bed. And just like Mike said, go find a good book to read. Go find something that's non-stimulating, maybe journal, maybe write down what's going on in your mind. Why is it I'm not able to sleep? Get to the why of what's really going on with your body. But I'm just going to ask you to do your due diligence on your part. And I've got a friend that's a dietitian, and she does everything remotely. So if you want to connect with her, I can definitely give you her information. If you don't have one, the VA usually has the one in Kansas City is a pretty good one as well. You just want to write down what you're eating for 2 weeks, what time you're eating it, and how much of it you're eating. And then you give them that information and they can kind of let you know. But if you find somebody that's more holistic in that diet journal, the food journal, they're very, very helpful as well. And I think it gives you an awareness of where you're at too. So serotonin is going to make a big factor, and that has to do with what you're consuming. Do you guys have any questions on any of this that we've discussed? Is anybody still there?
Still here.
Yeah, no, I'm tracking.
Here.
We've got a number of people still here. Thank goodness.
All right.
Hey, Kerry, personal question, if you don't mind. When you couldn't sleep like that, did you ever try one of those CPAP tests, or you just knew it wasn't that?
I do have melatonin that I take that's prescribed by the VA, but I don't take it consistently. I take it when I'm struggling to help me sleep. And the
Right.
reason why is because if you take melatonin, then your body naturally isn't going to produce it like it should. Then you become dependent on it. So my suggestion also is through this is to, if you can get the VA to prescribe it, that's great. If not, get some off the counter. But while you're going through this phase of backdating and getting yourself, stair stepping to where you can get your 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep, ingest a few little bit of melatonin before you go to sleep. But then once you're able to sleep like 6 hours consistently, I would say get off of it so your body will naturally start producing it 2 hours before you go to bed.
Okay.
Hey, Will, just real fast. I'm assuming that was you, right?
Correct. That was me, Ken.
Yeah. Hey, you're talking about a sleep study through the VA. I did that.
Indeed. Yeah. The acronym CPAP. Yeah. The sleep study. Correct.
Well, the CPAP is what they'll use if you do have sleep apnea. If you've got sleep apnea,
Yeah,
the
right.
CPAP machine they'll give you, it's I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's positive airway something or other. You're a big guy, if I remember correctly, right? You're like one of those powerlifting dudes, yes?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And I will say with bigger, heavier, muscular dudes with big, thick necks, I think sleep apnea is one of the more common things to have. So have you had that checked? Yes or no?
I did. I got a test device from the VA here in Houston a while back, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. So I did do the test. I just have not gotten the results back yet. So I've got the
Yeah,
ball rolling on that. Yeah,
you got a Holter monitor, right?
indeed. Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know what that is.
I just had a sleep
Yeah.
study a couple weeks ago.
And
I
have
did
you had the
mine at the
results?
hospital.
Yeah. So no, take that seriously.
Yeah.
As the guy who's, yeah, I got diagnosed. I got the CPAP. I did the in-house sleep study, all of that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you get the results, they'll let you know. And if you do in fact have sleep apnea, that's serious because what that does is that's exactly what we're talking about. It impacts your sleep and your sleep quality because you stop breathing for
Yeah.
a couple seconds or enough to where it rouses you. The CPAP will mitigate that. So yeah, if you have sleep apnea, you want to get that remedied, and the CPAP is one way of doing that.
Okay.
And my advice is always, do your own research. But if you have sleep apnea, you definitely want to use that device to help you sleep. Once you start sleeping consistently through the night, you are going to start feeling so much better. You're going to heal so much better. Your alertness, everything about your life is really, really going to change. The other one little thing I want to say about serotonin is prescription medicines can affect your serotonin level, which in turn affect your ability to be present, mindful, and meditate. Okay, so you have to once again do your own research. I'm not going to tell you to stop taking prescription medicine, but I have severe migraines, so I get Botox. But even with my Botox, I have these really bad migraines, and so I have to take a sumatriptan shot, which in turn affects my serotonin level, which in turn affects my ability to be mindful, present, and meditate. So just be aware that even prescription medication can affect your serotonin level. And so, can you hear my grandkids? They're all up in the kitchen. They're getting all their snacks out. They're dropping them on the floor.
Getting
So,
your sugar?
no, their mom is so strict. I've got my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, my 3 grandkids, my son-in-law, and their dog. So we've got like 10 people and 4 dogs in the house. So is that, is there any other questions that kind of popped up? No questions? All right.
All right, last guys will be move and exercise, guys and gals. So these are some excerpts from that article I sent, which is a good one, which is the exercise effect. And there's a multitude of research done on exercise and all of the positive impact. But I just kind of wanted to highlight some of these, right? And I'm not going to go and read line for line. But in essence, this goes on to say exercise is something that psychologists have been very slow to attend to. And what they're getting at is people know the physical impacts of exercise, but they're far behind in terms of exercise's impact on the psychological and just overall, mental health, well-being, and things of that nature. So I think research is starting to catch up with that. So when we say, hey, move and exercise, so movement versus exercise, right? Just, if you're at your desk all day, hours at a time, we somewhat jokingly say sitting is the new smoking, right? Well, it is because the body's meant to move. So I'll say this, you should be moving I say every couple of minutes, probably every half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour, you should at least get up out of your chair and take a quick walk for like a minute or so. Because just sitting there, especially the older you get, you know, when people have maybe circulatory problems and various other things, it's all the more critical. But movement, taking the stairs, going for a walk, doesn't have to be super rigorous exercise, but your body's meant to move, not to be, you know, leading this sedentary lifestyle. So that's that. Exercise, which was really more the focus of that particular study or article, talks about cardiovascular. It mentions very briefly, you know, resistance exercise as well, even though I think studies have shown cardiovascular is a little bit more effective. But one of the things I wanted to point out, that one bullet where it says exercise in many ways is like exposure treatment. What I found very interesting is people learn to associate the symptoms with safety instead of danger. So what they mean by that, and I just took an excerpt, is when people exercise, their hearts, their pulse races, their heart rate increases, all of those things. And what they're learning is to cope with that and find positivity in that. What they're saying is people that are, I'll say, subject to anxiety attacks and things of that nature, those people that exercise can deal with those a little bit better. Why? Because they've begun to almost teach themselves that those symptoms can be associated with safety instead of danger. Why I find that interesting is the leap of faith, right? For those of us that have been through the leap of faith, that's kind of one of the theories as to what makes that so effective. Because that is an event that elicits, I would say, the very same types of responses: fear, anxiety, you know, racing heart, adrenaline. But by the same token, instead of it being associated with danger, it's being associated with safety and positivity. So what they're saying is exercise almost has that same type of effect. It goes on to talk about how it staves off depression and anxiety. That's important. But in full disclosure, what they go on to say is prescribing the exact type or intensity or modality is where they fall short. So they can't say you need to do no less than X amount of minutes a day, 3 days a week at, the following intensity level, maybe measured by heart rate or exertion or whatever it might be. What they have come to find, though, is cardio a couple times a week. Doesn't have to be super rigorous, but enough to maybe break a sweat rate, heart rate, that's been shown to, really help with depression, anxiety, and a lot of things. So these last two bullets, beyond just the anxiety, the overall well-being, they talk about it buffering how the brain is going to respond to future stressors. So in essence, it strengthens you, in dealing with stress. So the more conditioned you are in that regard, not only is it the effects immediate, or at least, during and immediately thereafter, but even in responding to future stressors, you're kind of almost, I'll say, inoculating yourself to future stress. The last thing I'll say is that last bullet. I like that because we've talked about at our cohort how the time to double down on your protocols, i.e. meditation, nutrition, yoga, exercise, all of that is when, you're feeling your worst, right? So it says people skip the workout at the very time of the greatest payoff, right? And you need to be doing it when you're feeling your worst, because that's when it's going to make you feel your best. Failing to exercise when you feel bad is like explicitly not taking an aspirin when your head hurts. That's the time you get the payoff. And I'll sum it up with this. I would say everything that we've talked about at this webinar, you should be, looking at that last bullet. So when you're feeling your worst, when you're feeling like, man, I'm just not feeling it today, that is when you need to, again, double down on your protocols and do all the things that we talked about, because that's when really you need it the most and when you're likely to get the greatest gains. So with that, we've got about, another 15 or so minutes for question, answer. Let's check in. How's everybody doing?
I'm going to say just a couple of things real quick. Can I say a couple of things?
I'm sorry. Yep.
you know, some of you know that I have like fibromyalgia. And so that's when I talk about time-based activities too. So I don't know everybody's physical like limitations or what they may have, but it's very important for you to figure out a way to get up and move. And so Mike hit the nail on the head exactly. So the days that I feel like crap and I don't want to get out of bed and I'm in so much pain are the days that I actually need to get up and move and get my body moving. And that's what they've said. One of the biggest things that helps people with fibromyalgia is just mild movement. And so what I will do is I will set a timer and I'll be like, okay, I can go for a 15-minute walk and I'll stop and I may take a 15-minute break and then do like another 10 or 15 minutes and realize that that's completely okay with where you're at. So do what serves you, that you're not overextending, that you're not pushing yourself too hard. You know, I talk a lot about productive discomfort through Warriors Ascent, and that's what this is as well. Is you want to grow and you want to change, but you don't want to create additional pain, and you don't want to end up hurting yourself. And I'll plug myself if that's okay, Mike. Just a couple of
Please.
things.
Yeah.
On YouTube, I created a 30-minute, 30-day yoga challenge. And so on YouTube, you can go and find this and do 30 minutes of yoga, and it's a variety of different sequences on there. All right. You can do that at your leisure. I've connected with KC Crew. And so it'll be this Friday, but starting next week, it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 o'clock Central Time. You can follow us on Facebook. It's a live stream, or you can get into Zoom. And I'll be doing actually like a flow. And then if you want like the meditation that we do at night during Warriors Ascent, I'm doing that a live YouTube stream Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I've done surveys, and that's when everybody wants to do yoga, is during the weekend. So I put that out there. So if you want to connect with me and you have questions, just feel free to reach out to me, and I can give you links to any of that. But I'm going to encourage you to find some type of method to move and exercise every day. And whatever that is, and if you have some kind of injuries or some other kind of things that are going on in your life, just set a timer. And if all you can do is 5 or 8 minutes, just like meditation, just do it for 5 or 8 minutes. Take as long a break as you need and then start it back up again. Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Fantastic. Terry, that's awesome. Appreciate you offering that to the community. Hey, last thing, guys, and then I want to open it up to everybody. As I mentioned, from that Eat, Move, Sleep book, the PDF, it's the 30 days challenge. Some of the things that Kerry talked about, quite frankly, challenge you to do yoga, challenge you to move. Everyone can see my screen, yes? So here's what that PDF shows. Small choices, big changes, first 30 days challenge. I would just ask you to look at this. If you want to say, all right, hey, what are some of the things I can do, right? I'd have, the basics, small adjustments, quality first, right? These are all things over the course of about 30 days that you can look at to dial in these eat, move, sleep habits. I find this to be a pretty useful resource, if you really want to take it, over these next couple days, because we're all quarantined, right? So here it is. Use this as an opportunity to kind of double down on that. So again, I invite your attention to that. Now, with that said, I'll take us off my screen. Boom. And I think now we can see videos of everybody, or I would hope.
Yeah, I think they have to turn their video on.
Yeah, I think everyone would need to turn their video on. Can you all do that?
I don't know.
Give us the option for that.
Oh. Boo.
Let me, Carrie, let me change the presenter to you.
Okay.
And sometimes for some reason when I do that, it.
You mean stop sharing?
No.
It's showing my screen.
Right. But it's not showing anyone else. Why not?
I don't know. Let's figure this out.
You presenter. Boom. So that's you.
Oh,
Hide
I could make somebody else the presenter.
Unhide.
Hey, Carrie, this is Tino Vasquez.
Hi, how are you?
Well, good. While he's doing that, so I don't forget, I would like you to send me those links if you could.
Yeah. Do you have my information?
Probably, but go ahead and give it to me.
Do you want it via email or text?
Either or. You can send a text.
Okay. My phone number is 816-313-2013.
2013.
Yeah. And if you text me, I'll send it and I'll tell you which, like, I'll send you everything that I have. That way you can just kind of decide.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm going to make Mike the presenter.
All right.
So you don't have to look at my screen.
I can still see you.
I know, but I want to see you.
All right. What do we got? Let's see.
Oh,
You got me?
which sides?
Dun, dun. All right. No, so hey, that's it. I'll say for the formal portion. Let me say this, guys, gals. You know, with this corona craziness going around, I know, some people are like, hey, not a big deal. Other people are losing their minds buying guns and ammo and range of toilet paper. Right? So I don't mean to make light of it, because there are people getting sick and God bless them, people dying. So I'm not at all, minimizing the criticality of this. However, yeah, for all the same reason, in these stressful times, you should be doing all the things that you've been taught to do, your self-care. So, I'm gonna steal a line from, Carrie in terms of self-care is not selfish. You really need to be making sure that, in these stressful times, you're doing all the right things, eat, move, sleep, maximize your sleep, right? Why? Immune function, right? Now, more important than ever, get proper sleep, hydrate, eat right, wash your hands. Yeah. No, but, so to be honest with you, this webinar planned, a month in advance couldn't be more timely or relevant.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing? Anybody have any, we've got about 10 minutes before this webinar and but any
So
question?
this is Jenny. One of
Yeah.
the questions that I have is that sleep-wise, I'm all over the place because I did shift work and things like that for years. But I also have injuries. So speaking to the pain, like I agree, if I get up and move, it does help to some extent. I have to be careful that I don't try to do things like I did 20 years ago. But
Right.
when the pain wakes me up and that's what disrupts my sleep, how do you recover and catch up on that?
So it's tough. Depends on the level of pain. So, and it also depends on what woke me up. So like my son-in-law staying with us, he's an air traffic controller, and he got up today at 4:30. So I've been up since 4:30, right?
Right.
So a lot of times if I have that pain that's just reoccurring, then my sleep, once I'm awake for the whole day. I'm not going to take a nap today. I'm not going to go to bed early. So it really kind of depends on the situation and the time. I'm going to encourage you to find the ability to be as comfortable as possible. I don't know, like me, I sleep with a pillow and blankets in between my legs. So I'm kind of like, with fibromyalgia, no matter like where I'm sitting in the chair, it hurts. Where my feet are on the floor, it hurts. If I put my arms on the table, it hurts, right? So
Yes.
it's important that you go through this process to find yourself as comfortable and as relaxed as possible. And then if you wake up in an enormous amount of pain, what I do is I'll get up, I'll walk around just for a few minutes, go to the restroom, whatever, try to be mindful, meditate, and then go back to bed. So for you, it may be that you have to get out of bed just for a couple of minutes, just to get the body kind of reacclimated, to kind of get the joints and ligaments and everything moving, and then go back and lay down in bed. I don't know what's going to really work for you, but you're just going to have to kind of try different things and
Okay.
and just realize that, if you only got 6 or 4 hours of sleep last night, like me, then that's all we got, right? But you want to be able to go to bed at the same time and get up out of bed at the same time eventually. And you're
Right.
still going to have bad days. You're still going to have days that you wake up maybe multiple times. But if you start following that process of self-care, mindfulness, meditation, a bath, whatever it is that's going to relax you, and doing all that before you go to bed, you're going to sleep at least for 4 to 5 hours a lot better than you were for 2 hours and up for 2 hours and down. You know what I mean? And
Definitely.
eventually you're going to start getting 6 and 7 hours of sleep consistently, and you're going to feel so much better.
Okay.
Maybe write down and look at maybe melatonin, you know, and trying different things like that to get you to that point where you're sleeping a lot better.
Yeah, I definitely have a screen problem. That sounds awful, but I
My
teach
granddaughter just said
paramedic
she
school
does
now, so
too.
it's with everything going on, it's like we're
Yeah.
constantly on the computer.
Yeah.
So I I don't think I ever realized how much I am on the screen right up until I'm deciding to go to bed.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
will
So
make a difference.
I would say start making those small adjustments. No consumption of any kind of food. I would say 3 hours before you go to bed. Just
Okay.
drink water, right? Before, you know, and
Yeah.
then make sure you're trying to relax as much as possible. The 2 hours before you go to bed so that melatonin can start working. And if you need an extra supplement of melatonin, maybe you try that for like a week and see how that goes, maybe 2 weeks. But your really objective is to wake up at the same time every day. And so, you know, my alarm is set for 6:55, and then I have another alarm for 7, just in case, like for whatever reason, I was up too late or didn't sleep well. So get up and get out of bed at the same time every day, and just try to get on a routine, and then just do self-paced activity throughout the day, and set a timer for certain things. But try to figure out how you can be as comfortable as possible in bed. Use any extra pillows or blankets or whatever you might need.
Yeah.
Maybe a mattress topper, and make sure the temperature of the room is set. You know, like Mike said, the colder the better. Really helps. Maybe a weighted blanket. Just make little small, minute adjustments to see how that works for you. And you can journal that as well, like what has worked and what hasn't worked, and what time you went to bed and what time you woke up, and being a kind of self-aware of what's going on with you.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a great point. Is that log? You know, we have our log in our workbook, but you know, the reason for that is to chronicle, hey, working, what's not. So, you know, you back off an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, like what Carrie's recommending in terms of eating. And guess what? If you end up having the best night's sleep of your life, you know, there may
Yeah.
be something. You know, the other thing for me, I'll say, I don't know if this will help you, Jenny, but meditate, you know, at night. You know, if I'm lying awake, you know, sometimes I'm just like, all right, I'm going to take 25 deep breaths or 50 deep breaths. So it's almost like counting sheep, but it's counting breaths. So it's like, and then usually by the time I get to about 11 or 12, you know, long deep breaths, you know, 6 in, 7 out. All of a sudden I'm like, that may or may not work for you, but I know for me that helps.
And Jenny, I have some yoga nidra. I have 30 minutes and an hour you can try to
Okay.
on YouTube, and you can just lay there and try those to see if those help you out as well before you go to bed.
And if I search that under your name, I'll be able to find it, or is it okay? It's not listed as something.
No, you just search
That's
for
great.
Carrie Street, you'll find everything about me out there in this world.
So Jenny, one last thing too, again, in that survey at the end, which I'd ask you to participate in. Again, I'm not foisting products on anybody. It's a friend of mine. He offered it up, these doTERRA studies.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, he said there's no obligation. You get free samples. You would participate online in this study group. But with that, doTERRA has a number of products and essential oils. Pain management is one. Sleep is another. And that might be something that if you want to participate in it, you can get some free samples from doTERRA, see if any of that stuff works for you. And
Yeah, I've heard good things about them actually.
yeah, they're one of the more
And
notable ones. So what I would do is in that survey, just say, yes, I'm interested. I will forward your point of contact information to him if you don't mind. And then he
Okay.
can send you whatever information is required to sign up. And that might be an added, I'll say, sleep ritual bonus that helps you get a good quality night's sleep as well. Because I know I use lavender, much to the chagrin of my wife, who calls me Lavender Boy. So I'll slather that stuff on.
I use lavender. I spray it on my pillows, Mike.
Yeah, that helps you sleep.
I do.
The better we
It
sleep,
works.
the better our
So,
partners.
hey, man. And you're a formidable looking dude, so no one's going to make fun of you.
Yeah.
Timmy, you should do that again. Timmy, do that again. My wife is throwing my dog treats so she doesn't walk in the background.
All right, so we got about 3 minutes left.
Any other
Anything
questions?
else? You guys all doing all right, guys and gals? Hope nobody's stressing to the utmost. I know it's kind of stressful times and we're in a big state of flux, but use this as an opportunity, quite frankly, to really practice these protocols. Because it's, as we've said, when you need it most.
Yeah, and so you can text, call, email me, anything you need from me, just let me know. My daughter said she needs money.
Harry, you look like you've tightened up a lot since last time I saw you, which was about 2 years ago.
What's that mean, tightened up? Is that good or bad?
That's good. It looks like you've leaned up. You've leaned up.
I've gained 15 pounds, man.
Well, it's all muscle, right?
But hey, he lost 15 pounds worth of hair, so it all evened out.
Maybe that's, you know what? It's a haircut. That's what it is. It's a dang haircut. That's right. You look good though. You look good. You look chipper,
Thanks.
full of energy.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, man, it's taken me a year to get my sleep ironed out, and that's why I encourage people to
Yeah.
just stick with it, because
Definitely.
you just can't give up. But I feel so much better just from finally getting sleep, you know? So, well, thanks, guys. Love you guys. Keep in touch and let me know if there's anything I can do for you guys.
Fantastic webinar. Really came at great timing.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks a lot, guys.
Guys, I hope this was helpful. Love
Sure is.
seeing you, love your participation. We'll continue this. Again, take the survey if you could, give us feedback,
Right.
tell us how to make it better, tell us what you think other good topics might be. And we'll do this monthly at the minimum.
Thanks so much,
Outstanding.
guys.
All right, thank you.
Yep,
Thank you,
thanks.
guys.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Guys.